These days, people are looking for more ways to be self-reliant. We raise and grow the majority of our food here on our small acreage homestead, and I want to share with you some of the things that we do. You may not be able to do all of these things, but most people can at least do one or two of these things to help them be more self-reliant. I'm Allie, if we haven't met before, and we raise and grow 80% of our food here on 1/2 of an acre. Chickens are first on my list, and I'll show you my chicken coop layout. Chickens are a great introductory livestock because they're so easy to raise and keep. This is where it all started. Kevin brought home 3 baby chicks, one for me and one for each of her children. And to me, this was full permission to start building our homestead. Chickens can be incredibly addictive little creatures. It didn't take more than a week for the flock to grow to over a dozen. Chickens can provide food through their eggs almost every day, less in the winter months and the hottest parts of the summer. Some people will provide extra light and heat during the winter months to keep the egg production up, but I don't because I feel like this gives them that natural time to rejuvenate so that they lay better during the spring, summer, and fall times of the year. One thing that I will do is grow a bunch of extra cayenne peppers. I'll dry them, then grind them up and sprinkle it over their food in the coldest parts of the winter. This helps them generate heat, keeps them warmer by increasing the circulation, and fights off bacteria. It also deepens the egg yolk color. You can preserve eggs when they're abundant to use during the slower laying months. My favorite way to preserve eggs is freeze drying. They reconstitute very well, whether you're using them for scrambling or for baking. You can also freeze them and coat them with mineral oil, pickle them, or even lime them to preserve. Eggs are a great source of protein, and they're so versatile they should be a part of a homestead. We don't eat our laying chickens, we raise meat chickens specifically for that. They have more meat, and they grow so fast we can butcher in as little as 6 weeks. We do keep a rooster. Many areas don't allow roosters. You don't have to have a rooster for egg production. Their sole purpose is to fertilize the eggs. I like to raise our own chicks. If a hen goes broody, this is an easy way to get chicks without the work of an incubator. But incubating eggs is a pretty fun project for kids. There's so many benefits to keeping chickens beyond their egg production. When they're out free-ranging, they eat bugs, and that's a part of their protein food source, and that helps lessen the pests around our orchard. They also eat scraps from the kitchen, as well as garden matter that we don't use, so they're great recyclers. And this helps cut down on the feed bill and enriches the eggs, making the yolks deeper in color. Their poop can be made into some of the best compost out there, which enriches the garden soil and saves on soil amendment costs. I'll put a link in the description of one of my quick videos on how to make chicken manure compost. Their run is pretty good sized, but they do get out to roam for a few hours almost every day. You don't want your chickens in the garden. They will destroy it by digging the soil and eating probably the very thing you don't want them to eat. I have beds in the orchard where they run, and they have to be covered before letting them out. I do feed my chickens an organic feed. It's a mix of lots of sunflower seeds, whole grain, scratch, and layer pellets. Our coop is made out of old pallets because I love that look and it's very cost effective. When we built the coop, I wanted a decent storage area so that I could store bulk food, which is a separate area on the back of the coop, and it can fit 5 55-gallon drums of feed. We grow a lot of mint here. One of the things that I found to be very helpful is to clip a bunch of it and put it in bundles. Put that on top of those barrels, and then it just dries. This will help deter pests and insects. Then once it's dry, I'll just incorporate that into their feed. This nourishes the chickens, and mint is actually a natural dewormer for those chickens as well. They have a laying area with nesting boxes that I can access from the outside to gather the eggs. Inside has a roost where they sleep. There is another room that they can access, but it can also be blocked off. I can raise baby chicks in this area. It has a little door that can be opened and closed, plus it gives the hens more space when it's not occupied. Their total living area is about 120 square foot, and it houses about 16 chickens most of the time. The enclosed space keeps them safe from predators at night. I also grow herbs around the perimeter of the chicken coop, and I keep a pair of clippers nearby. I'm always clipping the herbs, tossing it in the nesting boxes and in their run. This just keeps those chickens happy and healthy. I also have trees on the hottest sides of the chicken coop. This helps keep them cooler during the summer months. And during the winter months, there's no leaves on it, so it allows that light to come in and warm the chickens up. Of course, if you want to homestead on any level, a garden is necessary. I feel like it's the mainstay of self-reliance and can be done or started very small. As little as a 3x5 bed can grow a good amount of food. Think about what you love to eat first, but also think about foods that preserve well. Lettuce and other greens are great fresh and should be added to the garden, but crops that can be bottled, dried, or froze should be grown to have food throughout the winter months when not much is going on in the garden. Victory Gardens were focused on crops that were easy to grow, including fresh vegetables in season and root crops and other vegetables that can store during the winter months. Vegetables like beans and tomatoes are great in the pantry, and broccoli is great frozen. Growing both green beans and dried beans will provide different textures and uses to your meals. Tomatoes are really easy to bottle, and they can be added to so many dishes, making a healthy meal. Growing things like onions, sweet potatoes, and winter squash, these things are great to store through the winter months so that you have something fresh to eat during those times. Saving seed is an important part of being self-sufficient. It all begins with a seed and it ends with a seed. That's pretty incredible, and it can only come from our divine Creator. Even if you just learn how to save 1 or 2 types of seed each year, that'll help you build your self-reliance. You don't want to overwhelm yourself. Start small and progress as you go. Preserving is essential to provide food through the winter months. Not all places can grow a vegetable garden year-round. And be versatile. Dry some herbs. They're easy to grow, easy to dry, and they add lots of flavor to your food. Canning fruit is also really easy, and it makes a great addition for breakfast. And when you empty a jar, fill it with water, because an empty jar on the shelf is just an empty jar, but a jar full of water is valuable. It can always be used for watering a potted plant or the garden before you fill it with food again. There's been so many times that we've relied on our food stores and been very thankful we've had them. If space allows and you're zoning, then dairy goats are a great addition to the homestead. With just 2 goats, you can have milk year-round. One of the big things people talk about is the taste of the milk. Food, care, and cleanliness all affect the flavor of the milk. If your goats ate a lot of weeds, had a poor diet, and sanitation wasn't so great, then of course the milk is going to taste like the hair of a goat. I'm really picky. My girls get a good clean diet, and their milk just tastes like milk. Goat milk can be made into cheese, kefir, yogurt, cream, and just about anything you would use cow's milk for. Goats don't require as much space as a cow, and each goat, depending on the breed and quality, can produce a decent amount of milk. My 2 girls will give me almost 3 gallons of milk a day when they're in full production. And kidding time, that's the best. What a great experience for children and adults to watch the birthing process. And honestly, that's my favorite thing on our little farm. And in case you didn't know, baby goats are called kids. Even if you had a small building lot, you could plant a few fruit trees. Dwarf trees can be planted fairly close, and they produce a good amount of fruit. I grow semi-dwarf fruit trees, and my spacing is very close. The apples and the fig trees on the south end of my garden are as close as 8 foot apart. I keep them trimmed and small. In my orchard, my fruit trees are spaced 12 foot to 8 foot apart. This goes against the norm and the standard. But why not break the rules if it works good for you? I have several citrus trees that I grow in pots, and this could be a good option for you. I do have to bring them in during the winter time, but they do produce pretty good. I can get 50 to 75 lemons just off of 1 tree. Unless you had a crop failure like I did one year, and it was called grandson making soup with all of your immature lemons. Depending on your area, your climate will depend on the type of fruit trees that you can grow in your area. So if you don't know, ask your local nurseryman, or better yet, ask a neighbor that grows fruit. I'll be doing an orchard tour and layout in the spring when the trees are blooming, so watch for that soon. Remember, start out small so you don't burn yourself out. Grow what you love and do what you can. Thanks for joining me today, and God bless.